Good evening and good morning to a lot of our friends around the world and our friends here in California and in the West Coast. My name is Fran Faraz, and to congratulate also Dr. Fatima, I can attest that my students who are Filipinos are one of the most intelligent, hardworking, and sincere students that I have ever had. Put forward to everything that our friends from the Philippines and the diaspora is doing here in the United States and around the world. Thank you for sharing your story with us. It's a great honor to be with the Institute of Brain Education, a community that understands and cares deeply about development of human consciousness and potential. Today, my conversation would be around reimagining education through the lens of peace leadership, which is um, definitely it intersects with brain education. So I usually have a lot more questions than I have any answers, but because I believe that the answer is in the question always, and the more questions, higher level questions or higher consciousness questions we have, better solutions we will get. So the first question is, what if the future of higher education depended not only on what we teach, but who we become? This is the most important part. Universities have long been centers of knowledge. They have trained doctors, engineers, scientists, and leaders. But the world we are in is escalating, and a world shaped by climate instability, rapid technological changes, social polarization, and global interdependence is calling for something new from education. Education must evolve. The question is no longer, the question now is no longer, what do a student know? But deeper, the question is what kind of consciousness and leadership we are cultivating. Because the challenges that we face today are not simply technical problems, but they are human development challenges. So, what kind of consciousness and leadership are we cultivating? They reflect on how we think, how we relate, and how we understand each other. How we are responsible to one another and to the earth. We are living in a time when answers seemingly have never been more accessible. With just a few keystrokes, we can generate insight, summaries, and strategies. So what we know is that solving complex problems does not begin with the fastest answer. It begins with the ability to ask better questions and the courage to stay longer to wait for the right question. The questions that reframe the challenge, that they expand possibilities, and that invites perspectives we had never considered before. Perhaps the real skill we must be cultivating are both depth and curiosity, because the quality of what we create, what we lead, and what we imagine is shaped quietly and profoundly by the quality of the questions we are willing to ask. And this is where brain education is important. It becomes essential. Brain education reminds us that the brain is not just storing information. It is a dynamic system capable of awareness, emotional regulation, empathy, and creativity. When students understand how attention, emotion, and intentions shape their experience of education, their education becomes more than knowledge acquisition. It becomes about human development. This leads us to the concept of practice of peace leadership, offering a powerful framework of reimagining higher education. In this peace leadership, leadership is not a passive leadership. It's the capacity to lead information through awareness, compassion, systems thinking, and courageous responsibility. Peace leadership invites us to new thinking and, more importantly, new ways of being. At the heart of peace education, leadership are these four expanding and intertwined stages. Inner work, the ability to regulate our inner world, which brain education does a beautiful job with it. Knowledge, the ability to build healthy empathic relationship. Community, the transformation of systems and institutions. An environment, a recognition of our shared responsibility for humanity and the planet. These stages move from inner transformation to societal transformation. But what does it actually look like in a university classroom? How do we move from concept to practice? So let me take a few ways to show peace leadership, how that is. A holistic learning experience. In this kind of leadership, we often speak of peace as a practice. Through that lens, peace is not only something to be studied and learned, but it's something to be inspired and embodied. In a classroom, it looks like integrating of the head, heart, and hand as a learning methodology, no matter what the subject matter area would be. The head develops knowledge and system understanding. The heart cultivates awareness, empathy, and deep listening. And the hand translates insight into possible action. When students grow knowledge, inspiration, and action together, we can see that both are more holistic learning environment and more prepared leadership experience. Education begins from the inner side. In traditional education, we train the mind. Peace leadership tends to be attending to the whole human being. In many of my classes, learning starts with something simple, 2 minutes of quiet reflection. The students ask themselves, what kind of leader do I want to become? What experience shaped how I see the world? What emotions do I bring into this space? This is inner work. The students begin to observe themselves, not to judge, but just not to know, but to notice. Students begin to recognize that their assumptions, reactions, and their fears are part of their learning process. They have learned to be that way. At this small shift creates something powerful once we realize that these are just assumptions. The students bring their whole humanity into the classroom. In the heart space, we are looking at the learning, the creating human connections. Peace leadership recognizes that learning is relational. In classroom activities, the students can be paired, can have peer partners, learning partners, listening partners together. Their role is not to debate, to fix, or respond, but simply to listen and listen deeply. The students often tell me sometimes that surprisingly that they say, I have never been listened like this before in a classroom. And when people feel heard, something shifts, we all know. They begin to speak with more courage and with more honesty. The classroom becomes not just a place for ideas, it becomes a place for human encounter and connections. Then the students become co-creator of knowledge. Peace leadership changes the role of the students. They're not just consumers of knowledge, but they are contributors. One practice we use in student-facilitated dialogue, where students lead discussions on questions like, what does justice mean in different cultures? How do we respond to conflict without violence? Where do our identities shape our perceptions? Students facilitate the conversation. The professor becomes a participant. And the students realize something powerful, their voice, that their wisdom, their voice matters. They matter. The knowledge is in the room expands beyond the syllabus. Then the power of storytelling that Dr. Fatima talked about. Storytelling as reflective practice. This is a practice of storytelling. Students reflect on their own experiences and connect them to global issues. A student studying migration shares their family story. A student studying environmental justice reflects on their community. This practice helps the student see that learning is not abstract, it's deeply human. Students begin to connect personal experiences with social systems. To deepen this work, students also create a podcast together where they discuss these issues, share their stories, and explore different perspectives. They interview each other on that podcast. Through these conversations, they practice listening, dialogue, and collaborative inquiry. That bridge between personal story and global understanding is where leadership begins to emerge. And now about system change. Seeing complexities clearly and through an intersectional lens. Students explore complex challenges like climate change, inequality, or conflict. They analyze through multiple lenses of how race, class, and gender and geography shapes experiences. Instead of looking for simple answers, students ask, what systems creates this issue? Who benefits? Who is excluded? They begin to see the map of interconnection between economics, politics, culture, and history. They begin to understand both inequality and resilience. One assignment the students particularly enjoyed is the reverse map project. In this exercise, the students flip the world map so that the global south appears to be on top and global north at the bottom. This simple visual shift invites the students to question assumptions about power, development, and global relationships. The students then explore questions such as, if the global south and global north change positions, would the issues we discussed today, such as development, poverty, migration, or environmental responsibility, would that look different? This project helps the students recognize how perspectives shape understanding. What initially seemed like a simple geographical change opens the door to deeper conversations about history, about power, and about global narratives. Many students find this exercise transformative because it encourages them to rethink what they have long taken for granted about how the world is organized and how the world is understood. They understand complex problems requires collaborative solutions, and they learn that leadership requires listening, especially to the voices that they have been excluded. The classroom extends to the community. Peace leadership does not stop at the classroom door. Learning moves beyond theory into action. Through service learning, students partner with community organizations, local organizations, they become learning spaces. Education becomes participation in the real world. We have done at least 25 service learning together, starting from even the campus, for them to take the responsibility to clean up the campus every month, at least once a month. They take responsibility for bringing like a free library community. There are like several of them around campus. Bring a book, take a book, and they all share their books together. They kind of get together and really understanding that how they can create oneness on campus. They go to a food bank, and how cool that is to learn about the economy of Orange County, one of the most prosperous counties in the United States, that its elderly cannot afford food. And learning about the statistics, about nutrition, about what should go where, and how they should be reaching out to corporation where they want to, when they want to support, they only send mayo and ketchup and things like that. So they have to write to them to reject that idea and to ask them to send nutritious food instead of the leftovers. So kind of like learning about all of that and their activism. How about like how cool that is for them to do beach cleanup every Saturday, and there some of their professors would show up and talk about the environmental issues and everything else that goes with it, along with cleaning up the beach. How cool that is for them to go to a native garden and learn about the botanic of and plants that they are native to Orange County, and they have to clean it up, otherwise other plants will take over them, and nobody will ever know what the plants of Orange County, the native plants, would look like. How cool that is to learn these things via the service learning. So accountability, which is one of my favorites, is that it's about shared responsibility. Peace leadership also changes the relationship between professors and students. The classroom becomes a community. Instead of a hierarchical of authority, we create shared accountability. Students and professors co-create learning agreements for dialogues, for respect, and growth. They hold each other accountable for those dialogues. Leadership becomes shared. Responsibility becomes collective. The classroom becomes a community practice. When students experience education this way, they don't just graduate with a degree, they graduate with awareness. They learn how to listen, navigate complexities, work across differences, reflect on their assumptions, and see themselves as part of the global system. And this is deeply important in the moment we are living in. Higher education must evolve. Higher education must evolve. From discipline-based silos to system thinking. From knowledge alone to wisdom in action. From career preparation for global stewardship. Ultimately, this is a shift in purpose that the students can begin to ask. How does my work serve community? How does my knowledge support the earth? How can I contribute to a more peaceful world? Peace leadership in higher education is not about adding one more course. It is about reimagining education itself. From information to transformation, from competition to collaboration, from knowledge to learning in action. And perhaps most importantly, understanding students begin to understand leadership is not safe for some world-class citizens. Leadership begins with ordinary people bringing awareness, courage, and compassion into the system they inhabit. Higher education has a profound opportunity to cultivate not only intelligent mind, but also wise, responsible, and compassionate human beings. And when it does its job, it becomes one of the most powerful forces we have for creating a peaceful and sustainable world. Thank you very much.